The following episode contains discussions about racial and gender equality that do not necessarily reflect the views of Bisexual Coffee Podcast. Listener and viewers' discretion are advised.
I was walking to the bank teller machine at about the 3-year point of this relationship that we're talking about with Tessa was her name.
Okay.
And we fought on the way to the bank. We fought about her father's answering machine. And I won't bore you with the details of the components of that fight, but I'm giving you the topic. And that's what we fought from the condo down to the hotel room down to the bank. And after we got finished with the bank, I turned to Tessa and I said, Tessa, we should pray. And she's kind of grumpy, right? Why should we pray now? What are you talking about? We should pray to God that we have an argument like this every single day. And that it only be this type of thing, because if this is the only thing we have to argue about, we are blessed. And I gave her a nice long list of all the things people fight about, generic stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, we fought about your dad's answering machine. And it's our first fight, our first disagreement. This is a moment to pray. I want to pray. I want to thank God for this relationship. Right at the moment, it's at its worst. Because it's a fight about an answering machine. And she laughed. It was at the end of it.
That's kind of
We
sweet.
did not
That's
pray.
kind of
By
sweet.
the
I'm
way,
not
we
even
did
going to lie.
Yeah.
We did not pray.
Well, I have to say, let me say,
Say.
there's a Disney film with this character that is like a flame, hot-headed flame. You know what I mean? It's what is it called?
Element.
It's not. Yeah, Element. And so
Element, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my partner now is like that. That's his communication style. And I didn't understand it. Michael knows. I'm like, man, what the fuck? This guy.
Yeah.
It really aggravated me in the beginning. And now I get it because we're both working together and he's brought the volume down.
Oh, yeah.
To make it not so intense, because when I'm in the emergency room or at the hospital or working in the nursing home, wherever I am, it is so loud and people are exhibiting behaviors and they don't have the ability to communicate effectively. So when I come home, I need to be able to decompress. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what you did and what he's doing now, it diffuses things. It just kind of, wait a minute, look at this moment that we have together and look at how awesome it is. Really.
Yeah.
Because we're arguing, but so what?
It's
we're
awesome.
here together.
An awesome argument moment when you realize you compare yourself. Comparing's important sometimes. Then you realize the depth of seriousness or not of things.
One of those arguments that I was talking about, one of the worst arguments we had, it lasted at least 3 hours of us just saying things, but not really, I don't think, listening as much. We just both had stress and stuff we had to get off. And I didn't realize how much I had to get off until she was complaining that I put up my television setup. Right now, I have a flat screen TV on an extended stand, and there's a place for my stereo and everything. And I take great joy in setting up my stereo system. And so I did that. And I was very happy. And then I sent a picture of it. And she just sent me 3 dots as a response. And then she comes home and she goes, why did you do this? Why didn't you wait for me? This is something you didn't have to do it by yourself. I'm like, I know I didn't have to do it by myself, but I wanted to do it by myself. That was the seed that started just this throw out. We're yelling and we're like, I don't understand. And by the end of it, she says something completely out of left field. Hey, think about all the stuff that we could have done if we weren't sitting here arguing. And that was something snapped inside of me thinking, you caused all this. And I was just sitting there, I was raging and I went, and then I started laughing. And then she started laughing. It was the first time I think I'd ever had such a real, passionate conversation without having worrying about which one was right at the time. We were both just letting that go. So
it's funny about laughter. It can kill rage instantly.
Yeah.
It can. We've got a little more time. I wanted this to go a little bit longer than our hour. And there are 2 things that I wanted to ask when it comes to your relationship with your relationships in general when you said that there were mostly all, if not all, from Tessa on from the Philippines? Am I getting that right?
All but one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. To hold you to what you were saying, that if you were in France, it would be mostly French women, and if you were anywhere else, it'd be that. How much time are you spending in the Philippines to justify that mentality and not maybe find somebody who is already acclimated to America and kind of knows our horrors already?
Oh, good question. And let's exclude the one example, one woman that I dated briefly that, because it was so brief in all of this, that was an American girl. We'll exclude her from the generalities. Each relationship I had, one for 8 years, one for 3.5 years, one for 4 years, one for 4 years, almost 4 years, back to back, and engaged with each one of them and married none of them. I spend 125 days minimum in the Philippines per year.
Still, so you're still doing that?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
No, I stopped at the pandemic.
Okay.
I never did return.
Gotcha.
Because here's the answer to your question. I've never been to the Philippines without already having established a relationship. I have never, but one time, left the Philippines without a committed long-term relationship. And that was the last time I left. So I felt I had no reason to go back. I have a ticket and I keep moving it. I generally leave in March. And my buddy said to me, and I was preparing, I was leaving. I was a couple of months. And he says to me, I'll never forget this moment. It was like, oh yeah. He says, Marcus, have you ever gone to the Philippines not being hitched? And that was his word. And I said,
right.
No. I gave that thought and I thought, well, why am I going to the Philippines? To see my condo? To see a few of my friends? No, I'm not going. And I never returned. So my relationships have started and ended in the Philippines. They've ended all for the same reason. They will marry me on the day we break, each one of these relationships. On the day we break up, I do the breaking up because they won't move from the Philippines. Full time. They will not come. Each one has a different story. And then there's a subsidiary exception. One did come, but you have to get into the weeds. The bottom line is none of them will live here permanently.
Why don't they like the United States, Marcus?
That goes to the misconception that I got distracted on earlier. There's a misconception in the Philippines that these desperate Filipino poor women want to come to America. Well, guess what? That's not actually a misconception.
A lot of people have heard that, yeah.
I don't date, and I learned within a few months. It was just a decision I made. I was in the Philippines, not a few months, a few days, and I can go into that story why. In a few days in the Philippines, I learned I will not associate, let alone date, poor Filipino women, economically deprived women. Not going to have lunch with them. I'm not going to meet them. I'm not going to converse with them. It's pretty extreme. But I learned it as a result of something very extreme. I'll sum it up with the end story. You'll get the punchline. I'm sitting in my suite with Romeo Vinson, who had his own suite, but we're sitting in my suite. Mm-hmm. And I said, Romeo, these girls that I'm meeting, yes, boss, this guy is arranging this. I said, Romeo, we're like on day 8 or 9. I kind of liked that girl, Alex. Why must I keep meeting different women everywhere we go every day? Mm-hmm. You have some woman showing up, this one shows up, then another one shows up. And he said, boss, something like, I'm going to make it up, I don't remember the line, variety is the spice of life. Mm-hmm. But I remember my answer. My answer was, wait, Romeo, ready for this one? You're married. Maybe you need variety, or you had it to find your wife. Yeah. I'm ready for marriage. I don't need variety. I met this girl, Alex. What happened to her? He picks up his phone while I'm sitting on my bed. He's sitting on the other bed in the room. And he does a text. We're talking. I don't know, 2 minutes. She'll be here for dinner. I said, how did you do that? I talked to, whoever the person was.
Right. I had a guy for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, well, this is all strange. But whatever. It's the Philippines. He pre-briefed me on the peculiarities of the country. So whatever. I just accept these things. And I met Alex. But I learned that all of these women are poor. They're looking for a handout. They're looking for money. They're looking for gifts. They're looking for marriage. I'm not even really sure at what level beyond money it gets to. And someone was paying for them to be with me.
This sounds awfully like your guy Romeo knew a pimp. And
yeah. Well, it turned out it wasn't a guy. I said a guy. I thought it was this guy.
Yeah.
This guy.
Air quotes.
It turns out it was a lady named Mommy Grace.
Great name.
She sounds interesting.
Great name. That person needs to be in your book.
She renewed her friendship on my Facebook a few years ago. She's pretty well silent, but yeah, I let her in. But I met her once, or maybe twice. But I said, well, meet this person. So there's a number of stories here. But the bottom line is, I put an end to it. I said, I met this nice girl. Somebody introduced me to this guy, this economic advisor to the president. And he introduced me to this nice young lady, and I want to see her. So I evolved away from this Alex,
sure,
which I thought was an option. And I went to Tessa. That's how love began and how I learned my lesson. And I made her watch all these videos, all these social media accounts of men in Philippines meeting all these women. And I thought, that kind of disgusts me. It's not me. It's so meaningless, but that's who I am. I don't think that's how most men are, but I'm just can only be who I am.
There you go.
I could ask you questions on questions when it comes to like the relationships and why you called them all off. And I would love to have you back on and talk more about that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my experience when I came to finding out who you were. And I mean, there's stories, there's articles, there's all types of interesting things. The first thing that I came across, though, was your Facebook page, which recently has had some changes. There's some things on there that aren't on there anymore, like videos and whatnot.
Hold on. Are you sure you're talking about Facebook, right?
Yes, I am talking about Facebook.
Okay, so you know, if you're not my friend on Facebook, you cannot see any daily post or pictures at all. You only see the few posts and pictures I make public during the course of a year. And that might be, I'll make up a number, 8 or 9,
sure,
when I actually post 1 to 3 to 6 times a day, but you can't see any of that. My public Facebook is very different than my private one. 4,000 people there. I've met every one of them in person, but for 47, I think is the number now. If you send me a friend request, you'll be 48. But 4,000, approximately, I've met them all. Gotcha. Real friends.
Gotcha.
And so most of those, but the public one, I know what it looks like. I look at it now and then from a public standpoint. It is very different than once you actually get in there, just so you know that. Okay.
No. And no judgments. I'm seriously coming in this from a curiosity standpoint, as it were. Sure. When I first found your Facebook, you had a series, about 4 or 5, and I'm guessing this is after the TikTok said, "I'm sorry, you can't be here with the rest of us," where you were doing some Facebook videos, and they were advice geared to people who may be having problems with their relationship. And some of the videos, from the ones that I saw, I didn't get a chance to see them all, that seemed to ask or tell women about how men perceive them, or at least how they should present themselves. And I'm wondering, while you were doing that, while you were making those videos and saying about the solidity of their sexuality or anything else that you were bringing up in those videos, did you ever think about the other side of the coin and how men are seeing them? Like, have you ever put out advice for the men perspective on how you are feeling when you see these people?
May I ask you one question before I answer that?
Not a problem.
I hate people that ask a question with it, but I want to be clearer on the Facebook. I have a Facebook account. I think it's called Dear Marcus Allen, and it's public. and it has a bunch of videos. I pretty well dropped the ball on that after a few videos, never was interested in it. But my real Facebook account is Marcus Allen Frishman, my full name. Are we talking about the Marcus Allen Frishman account that would have periodically a video? Are you talking about this Dear Marcus Allen dead account that I actually only loaded videos to for some short period of time?
This was one that looked like it had a video that posted up in either August or September. And the last time that I looked at the Facebook, I don't think the video is available right now. It may not be public anymore.
That's interesting. Keep in mind, I invite you to join my Facebook, Marcus Allen Frishman, not the one for my dog, not the one called Dear Marcus Allen, not the dead, I don't use, but they're there, I guess. All right. To answer your question, if you could be more specific on the actual video, because I don't remember.
Let's see. I can actually pull up the... Give me a second.
Because all of those videos were from my heart. They were from my really deep beliefs.
Sure. No, you seem very convicted.
5 or 6.
You seem very convicted in what you were saying. It was interesting to watch somebody, put themselves out like that. It didn't put me off anything. It made me curious on, talking with you. And just kind of getting to know you. Excuse me while I try to find that right now while I just...
Oh, sure.
I know a video.
The beauty of you doing this is you can edit all this wasted time out.
Oh, look. You don't sweat the small stuff, Marcus Allen. Don't sweat it.
I want to focus on this video that he's talking about.
So I can tell you one, Marcus. I can tell you one because I watch all your videos.
Okay.
But I watch them with an eye... So I've been through a lot as a kid. Yeah. So I understand why a lot of women would feel the way they do, or why are you saying that? So there was a video where when you're with a man and he does this look.
Oh, look, the one about looking at the woman at the beach?
Yeah, or the bikini? Look, I'm all for it. If my partner looks at another woman.
Yeah.
It's not out of lusty grossness.
Oh yeah, look at the looking at the other woman video.
That is one of that is one of the videos. Not the one I have, I think.
Try to tell me the one you have, but in the meantime, I'll comment on that.
Go ahead.
Comment on that one.
Comment on that, and then I found the transcript, so we'll go over that.
Oh, okay. So I think it's obvious on that one. Women are generally, and this should not be perceived as a woman-man thing, but women and men, I'll put it that way, are jealous. Jealousy is a strong component in relationships. And men are so visual that they watch women, they watch cars, they watch dogs, they're just visual. And I focused on that video specifically on your man looking at some sexy woman at the beach or in the pool and how it means nothing and how your relationship is not going to be affected by that. There's no effect. He loves you. He's with you. And the fact that he's lusted momentarily for this woman that passed him by at the supermarket or whatever it is, and you reacted, that just the problem is your reaction. It's not the man looking. You can't stop what God created. Women are not visual as a rule. You have to have rules. There are rules in humanity. And most women are not visual. I mean, that's why pornography is designed and directed toward men, whether they are straight or gay, not women. And there are exceptions, more exceptions in the women version than the men version of the visual concept. But I spent more time on the reassurance part, I think, in that video than explaining the dynamic that triggered it, which is what I'm doing in reverse here. But I felt that it means nothing, and women should stop focusing on their man's straying eyes.
Well, and I get what you're saying, but when you're with a good man, so my partner in the beginning of our relationship, we would watch. We like the Sylvester Stallone show with his daughters and things.
So do I.
Yeah. So we were watching that in the beginning. He tests me. It's so funny. So he's like, "Oh my God, have you seen her lips?" And then he'll look over at me. And then my eyes are like, what am I supposed to say to that?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you know, I
You're
mean,
supposed to say, "Did you
I
see
have seen her
Sylvester?"
face and her lips. Thank you.
yes. Well, no, and I don't mind because I'm pan. I don't mind as long as it's respectful.
Yeah.
Now, if it's
Oh, sure,
something that's really off-putting, really gross, like really comes from the ego and there's now
oh, no,
that's
that's not what
what
I'm
I
referring
don't like. And I think the misconception that women were having when watching your video was a lot of them have to deal with ego.
that one, the one you described that was
Yeah.
not, you know, you can
Right.
only do so much in 6 to 10 minutes, but yeah. But also remember, I did videos to agitate people. I did what I
Yeah.
believed was true in my mind,
Right
but
there.
I like to trigger people. I find it entertaining,
So
enjoyable.
you're just stirring the shit over there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I like to
That's it.
stir. I like
It's
it.
a shit stir.
I have a
Okay.
buddy who says, "You know exactly how to poke me in the right spot."
Poke the
And
bear.
I said, "Yeah, it's fun, but it's not with malice.
There
It's
are
for my own
small parts of the
entertainment."
internet out there who take your words not as that you're taking the piss out of people, that you are actually coming at them with full intention of bearing your soul, and then they see that, and I think they start to see it and hear it for maybe your ego instead of somebody who is trying to just kind of feel the temperate of what the internet is and just throwing out your advice.
You may be right on that. I remember the worst one I did, Edith. You never saw it because it never was on TikTok. I did a video years ago. On the evils of single motherhood.
Oh no.
Oh yes,
Oh
you love it. I
no.
went after single mothers.
I mean, at
I
least
did it
Oh,
in a
you
way that
stinker.
I actually believed my concepts, but they're outrageous. My concepts on that subject were simple. I can't remember the video exactly, but it's so bad. I took it down. This was pre-Facebook warnings. You know, it would have been
Sure.
never allowed now. But it
Sure.
was a
You
few
were
years
shit
ago.
stirring
And
poor
I
mothers.
gotta say, I said, look, here's what I didn't fully say because you can't, but I was to be more blunt than that video and to exaggerate the point of it is it seems to me you shouldn't have children unless you're married. And I don't care if it's a man or a woman, a man and a married couple, because I think it's a necessity to raising children. And I say this without being a father. And I think a woman and a man are a better match for children. But to have a child, you should be married. You should have a partner. You should be using protection. You shouldn't be having casual sex without protection. And if you're married, you should have sex with protection unless you plan on having a child. I say this all coming as an adoptee. I'm adopted.
Mhm.
And I'm very much pro-life. But I'm also very much pro contraception. It seems there's a lot of people having a lot of casual sex, having a lot of children, and then the man runs away, and the women always take care of the kid, and that's just a bad thing on so many levels.
It's a whole addiction. There's a whole no one's educating young people and showing them. I mean, it takes a very long time.
Well, how about the
for-
women that plan on having a baby as a single mother?
Oh,
And I
those
did it.
ladies, the rich ones.
Oh,
Well, I did it in
It could be
reaction.
that. It could be the fact that they feel like they have enough to just carry on and shoulder forward, but they also may think that they have enough village behind them.
That too.
I did it in reaction to a Philippine visit. When on the way back on the flight, I remember asking Romeo, he was by my side on so many visits in the first 5 years. I said, Romeo, why are there so many single mothers in the Philippines? What's with that? Young single mothers. I don't understand it. It's a Catholic country. Are they all a bunch of hypocrites? They have a base. It's an official religion. They're all Catholic, and they all go to church like every day. I mean, not even weekends. I had a girlfriend that was a Sunday school teacher. I understand being Catholic.
Okay.
I went to church with her, and I don't get the Philippines. And he just said to me,
Didn't you say
they're
the
all
men are no
hypocrites,
good?
Marcus,
Yeah.
and they don't have access to contraception, and the men abuse the women. I don't know. He went on and on with this. So I came back and did a rant on single women.
So you were emotionally charged. You were
I was
emotionally charged. You were feeling spiritually vindicated. I don't think enough people know that you come from an adopted scenario, which may help people kind of understand what you're saying. But I can also see where a lot of, if you're going off emotionally charged like that, and for the views that you have, where there's going to be a lot of blowback from a lot of the internet, especially from leftist sides or people who are experiencing single motherhood from whatever situation that they are. I could see
I lost a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about Marcus and our friendship. It is organic all the way. We met. I landed on one of his videos.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, what is going on over here? People are hating on you.
Oh, yeah, and I had hate.
Yeah.
He was getting the hate slapped on him, and I don't know. He just started talking to me, and we just started talking, and I was hearing his message without attaching a meaning to it.
Right.
I didn't attach my childhood trauma, which we don't bond over that. He knows my situation and I know his.
Right.
We don't bond over that. We're new people. We're in the present. The past is the past, right? But it's been a journey. He's had his ass kicked all over TikTok.
I had 4 million viewers before I had to leave. And I got to tell you, I had 2,000 haters. A lot of people sent me very nice messages that said, you changed my son's life. I did a bullying video. And this woman, I'll never forget it. It almost brought me to tears. But the hate, it was, self-inflicted because I liked to trigger people because it was all about getting views. I don't believe I offered anything that I didn't sincerely believe, although I used exaggerated points to get my point out there. So you don't actually agree with exaggerated points necessarily. It's the best way to get people's attention. But you had a video particularly that was sensitive, hopefully.
We'll do the first two paragraphs and see if you remember where this was coming from. This was one of the latest ones that I saw. I think it was the first one I found while I was scrolling. Ladies, we've established that the power in visual in men. Oh, so this is actually that one, I think, is not comparable to women, and that your man may no longer find you attractive as he did when he first met you. 1 million viewers on video 55 and 52 on that subject.
So there have been several videos.
Yeah. And then the next one is the one that grabbed my attention because I felt like this felt baity. Like you had a hook and you had some bait on it. You just wanted to see who would bite. You're fleeing from heterosexuality and becoming lesbians, according to your own words, in the tune of thousands of comments, some of which I had to delete because of profanities. Does that one sound familiar?
Yeah. Yep. What else did I say on that?
He's right.
I mean, it goes on. But I mean, it was, they were talking, this one was talking about the bikini and the beach. This was the video that we were talking about. I didn't realize that we were talking about the same one. But yeah, we were talking about he's lusting after other people with his eyes. It's a momentary thing. Don't lose heart. Which I feel if you were coming from a place where you wanted to jump into the middle of the pool, you probably wouldn't have gendered it so much, right?
And it's condescending.
Yeah. And maybe you had gone just like, maybe from them days or just kept it like, neutral pronouns or whatever have you. But, that doesn't sound like it's what you were aiming for. I will say as I was reading that one again, I'm reminded of the times that my wife and I are comfortable to point out either ridiculous looking people in our own little private space, like from the safety of our car where we're just being gremlins, or finding like attractive people online, which the one person that comes to mind right now who I currently have a crush on is a guy named Dylan on the newest season of the Great British Baking Show. I think he's amazing looking and he's a great baker, and I think he's great. And Marley teases me about it because we're comfortable knowing that I'm not sitting there going, I'm going to look up Dylan and I'm going to try to send him mail and all this.
Right.
Um,
Get in the back door kind of thing.
So-
it even is stranger when you, and I think I made this point in some videos, when you fantasize about I use the word fantasize, I'm not sure that's right, but think about or talk about or focus on famous supposed attractive people that you're attracted to. That's a whole different thing, I think, than, the random attractive woman that passes you in the market or
that's true,
or
because
whatever.
Well, one's ego, right?
Yeah.
One's ego, and then the other one, you and Marley are sitting in the living room. You're doing it together.
Yeah.
You're open.
Yeah.
There's no fear.
It's a communal experience. It really is. It's
Exactly.
sharing. It's back and forth. I think, Marcus, that these words that you're putting out there, these videos, they're grabbing the attention of people who don't have their shit together.
Oh, yeah. I think
or think that they really do. They're happy where they are and can't imagine where people can be in the same kind of headspace that you are. And I think that makes me understand you a little more. And I'll be honest with you, there's a modicum of respect for somebody who's willing to put that out there and know that there's going to be people who disagree with you. Like, I'll be honest with you, I kind of censor myself sometimes when I go out on the internet because I want to make sure that I have built my whole thing on whoever comes. If you're an asshole, you got to go. But your people, and that's kind of refreshing there, Marcus.
Comes to mind when you say this? My thoughts, and I think reality, on this concept of equity, diversity, and inclusion sounds like a pretty noble thing.
Yeah,
I think it's probably the worst policy, if you want to call it that, public policy or social policy that exists in the world today.
Please explain that.
It's evil. It's absolute evil. And I don't even want to go into the normal response of these conservative nuts that I have to watch on my YouTube that will say, well, they would say it puts an unqualified black man in the helm of an airplane carrying a lot of passengers when he's not qualified because he got the benefits of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Okay, that's the rhetoric. That kind of thing. Describe it differently is what's put out there by the people like me that have views like me that put that out. It may, in fact, be true, but it's not. There's a much bigger reason why the equity, diversity, inclusion turns into be worse than that and evil. Let's see if I can explain it. It's because it separates us by race, ethnicity, religion, and color. And it gives and bestows supposed benefits upon supposed disadvantage, color, race, religion, fill in the blank of the categories. When in fact, what we should be working on is real inclusion, because I think those words they sound nice, but they're fake. They have an end result that is completely the opposite.
Well,
the
then
opposite of
what is real
diversity and inclusion. Because let's focus. Let's ignore our color. Let's ignore our races. Let's ignore our different religions. And why don't we start having, rather than these crazy groups that focus on equality, and some of them are terrorist groups like the African American group. But anyway, the point is, what we should be focusing on is what we agree on, what we get along on. Maybe it's astronomy, maybe it's art, maybe it's other hobbies, maybe it's interest in religion. We should have groups and people focused on commonalities, not our differences.
Okay.
And then we can all just get along
instead of labeling it. And I
instead
learned
of
this
labeling
from him.
it. And then you won't have these right-wingers criticizing it for petty reasons. And we can really move forward in equality. I got to tell you, There are disadvantaged people in America, but the disadvantage is economic. It ain't race, religion. Let's focus on the race thing because it isn't race. It's not because you're black. It's because you're poor. And most blacks are poor. 70+% of welfare recipients are in fact black. So I'm not offering opinions here. That's an empirical fact. I forget the exact number, 72, 77. The point is they're poor. And if we as a society, both privately and in government, would help people economically, not because of their color. It will help a lot of white people. That's great. It will help a lot of other people, but it will disproportionately help ethnic minorities. But you help poor people. You don't help people who don't need help. And with an even playing field that I believe America provides everyone, except for the economically disadvantaged, that's what we have to help. And we need to help them in so many levels.
So
nobody talks about it like that.
I've got to ask, because of the fact of where this is coming from, because of who you are, because of what you're saying, can you not say that you are coming at this with a little bit of survivor bias?
What does that mean?
So survivor bias is the idea they use a plane that is being shot at over a war zone as an example, where a plane is being shot at, the plane lands on the ground, everybody goes, you were in danger. You were in danger. You were in all of this thing. And the pilot goes, no, I'm fine. I survived. I'm good. And then behind him, his plane is just like riddled with bullet holes. For somebody who may be in the plane, who right now is not experiencing the things that some people may have, whether or not, I don't know the numbers enough to go into, the racial numbers on who's poor, who's not. I live in an area that seems pretty, that's very close to some people who
really
are
nice
in desperate,
homes.
Yeah, they're in some desperate situations, and I have to say, I don't see a white face among them.
That's why it's important to help. When I say help, that's a big word. I mean, all the programs and advantages and special considerations should go to economically disadvantaged people, regardless of color.
Sure.
If we truly want to eliminate discrimination and racism.
I got to call time.
That's over an hour and a half. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that was, we were just getting
it was good though.
God, we were getting good. Okay. Marcus, dude, you're welcome back. Anytime.
Yeah, we're doing this again. This was fun.
And I still got so many notes.
I have a question of curiosity.
Please.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
To Michael? Okay. Michael, I watched you on some podcast with Edith,
mm-hmm.
and I learned you were bisexual.
Yeah, probably this one.
It was okay, fine. But you were married. You were married and bisexual.
Absolutely.
Okay, so my question is kind of broad, and I don't know how to ask the specifics. I think we got
time for this, Edith. Let this play.
How does that work? How does it work out? Well, I just leave it with how does that work exactly? You're married to a woman, but you are attracted to two sexes, but you're fully committed to your wife.
So far, you're on the right track.
Does that cause trouble? Because your wife cannot fulfill.
This is a story that I could revisit in this show. So, okay.
Tell him.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, here's a laydown. Growing up, probably around the time that I'm in my book. Okay. So between the ages of 5 to I say about 21, somewhere in between there, probably around the age of 14, 15, mm-hmm. I start to realize that not all my fantasies are about women only. It's something I don't have anybody to talk to about, so I just compartmentalize it. I shove it away, and I just focus on being straight me, going to the Navy. And while I was in the military, it was like it was all bottled up. All of a sudden, I'm starting to having dreams. I'm starting to having fantasies, and it's like, okay, no, this is definitely a part of me that I'm not addressing. So I tried to bring it up to my wife at the time, my first wife. Her exact response to me was, "Are you really coming at me with this shit right now?" When you're trying to be yourself, it's hard to hear those words.
You married her without her knowing you're bisexual.
Yeah. and I didn't really address it within myself because I was just thinking it was flights of fancy, teenage hormones. Who knows what it's doing to the brain? Flash forward a few years later, we're out of the military. I'd say it's about 5-6 years out of the military at this point. I start to want to explore to see what I want to do to satisfy myself sexually. You know, there are experiences that I've never had. There are toys that will help facilitate that. I want to explore that. And then I come up to her. She's a lot more receptive this time. She's like, okay, well, do you want to shop toys together? Stuff like that. And that gave me kind of a sort of validation to kind of work on. It leveled my mental playing field. She asked, hey, are you wanting to try to get in a relationship with somebody? And I'm like, no, I'm monogamous. I don't like the idea of opening anything up. Mm-hmm. I like growing and spending my time with that person. And then we get to just ogle people from afar. It's fine. So then that relationship ends in the way that it does. And like I said, it was good. It's a separation, but I mean, it was relatively good. Not the first thing. It's not like I walked in the door with, and this is how the title of this podcast came in, with a cup of coffee. And it's like, here's bisexual coffee. I am bisexual. You know, it wasn't like that. A couple of conversations in, we start talking about sexuality, trying to get to know each other. And I just open up with her. It's like, yeah, hey, I'm bisexual. And she thought she was getting like, to use a term that I haven't heard for a while from what I found from you, metrosexual. She thought like I would be like well-dressed and great. I'm like, no, I have a lot to learn about all that. Mine is just basically fantasizing about guys and appreciating their hotness and realizing that I like both. She's done a lot for me now. I feel like I'm a better man because of her. But from there, we're open with each other. She's straight. I mean, she'll appreciate the beauty of other people, but she's not really sexually attracted to anybody but guys. She entertained my little flights of fancy, just looking at somebody going, wow, that guy's really ripped. Or,
you're now talking about the second wife.
Yes,
correct?
I'm now talking about the second wife, yeah.
Because you married a wife that knows you're bisexual.
Started off from the beginning. So, and she got the benefit of me growing up in another relationship and finding out who I was, which I think if anybody starts off in a relationship, that's actually good. Take the benefits that you learn from many negatives and build something nice. But also realize that some of those things you learn aren't one-to-one with whoever you know. So that's how it works. It's understanding, it's communication, it's openness. It's you got to get with somebody, well, one who doesn't just look at you dead in the eye and goes, oh, I'm homophobic. That happened to me recently, just to a random person, which is wild.
Really? Well, you know, Michael, I'm in Los Angeles, California, the People's Republic. You can't be homophobic here. Of course, I grew up when I was 13 years old. I was walking my dog, and I made friends with 4 guys who lived in a house. They were in their 20s. Mm-hmm. A couple weeks ago, I was invited to one of their homes to have dinner. He's 84, 85 right now, something like that. I asked him. These were 2 male couples. And I'm 13 years old, and I'm walking the dog.
Yeah.
And I liked these people. One of them's name was Saul. He was a stained glass artist. One was Dennis. He was a gardener. One was Michael, an interior decorator. And one was Robert, who I didn't know very well. He came and went. He was a telephone company employee. And I would go there and hang out a lot. And then, I lived in that. I went to middle school and high school in that house, and they lived down the street. And so I was there 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years. And during that time, they lived there. My father becomes concerned because he's met them and knows they're gay, and he thinks I'm going to be gay. And I said to my dad, you don't become gay. You either are gay or you're not. And I suppose there are things that could shock you into being gay, but that's an exception. And I had to educate my dad because he was concerned. And it turned out my dad became good friends with all 4 of those men. And they would be at the house.
Story, Marcus.
It is a great story.
And so I became sensitized to that. I would go to middle school I was 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. Then you go to high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And kids made fun of me for hanging out with these older gay men.
They're lost.
It never dawned on me.
You're right.
Well, I mean, you could reflect back on this. I don't think at the time I gave it any thought. But reflecting back on it, it made me now, I mean, shortly after that, realize I don't have a gay bone in my body. But it made me realize that at that time, late 70s, okay? That has to be the late 70s. So it was not cool to be gay.
No, definitely not.
In the 70s. So I evolved very early on that subject. And by time I hit the 80s and I was in college, it seemed to have, it wasn't a thing, but everyone was in the closet. And then suddenly everybody wasn't. And really, and then it became...
all the doors open at the same time.
What I'm trying to say is I was way ahead of everybody else on that subject. That was shocking to like my father. My father's reaction. He was accepting, but he was shocked.
Yeah.
I never had the shock.
You know?
You're an exceptional human, Marcus.
You really are. You're
really
a tiramisu, my guy. You've got layers.
And I'll schedule you again.
By the way, I supported the gay rights marriages in California in 1990s when I was on the executive board of the Republican Party much later, but I was active in the Republican Party in California, and they were opposed to this. Almost all the party, not all of it, but a small group was not. Led by, who was leading the small group? Kevin McCarthy, our former speaker, my dear friend. Mm. He was leading the group supporting gay marriages and abortion rights in the Republican Party in the 90s in California. And so I became the go-to guy for both sides in the negotiation. The conservatives, who are against all of this, always won, and I was always on the conservative side, but I didn't always agree with any of that. I voted for the gay marriages each time.
Are you telling me that you believe that love is love?
I believe love is love, and I believe there might be. I believe there's an anomaly in God's creation that makes men gay that can't be explained, makes women gay that can't be explained.
And that's for the next episode, okay?
Well, I can't explain it.
Because we're on 2 hours.
Oh my goodness.
This is awesome. We had a great time.
I'm sorry.
I think this is one of the easiest flowing conversations that we've had. And it's something that we're striving for, too, is to have easier conversations, get comfortable with these people, and then start hitting some topics later on. Think of this as season 1, man. I appreciate you coming in.
You know what's interesting, Michael? The most interesting thing to me is not hate like I experienced on TikTok with 2,000 people, but disagreement of the, maybe 10,000 people. Disagreement, people that disagree with me is the most fascinating. People that agree with me, that's not interesting. Oh, it's nice. It makes you feel good. But it's not interesting. And I'd rather have interesting than feel good. And so bring it on. Let's talk about something we disagree on.
Okay.
Let's make some discourse.
We're going to make discourse next time. And he was on NOMT and he had everybody popping.
Oh, I bet.
MONT? What's that?
Naked Onion Mystery Tour.
That's Naked Onion Mystery Tours podcast. Yeah. So,
you mean with the ladies?
Yes.
Yes. Michael, did you do that?
I'm gonna.
Did you do that?
That's hers.
We'll do it all. We'll have Michael and the other ladies, and we'll all go on NOMT, and we'll do that too.
Those ladies were too nice to me.
Yes,
they
were.
And Marcus, I did the intro this time. I even said the $7 thing. Do you want to get us on home, Edith? Pick up your microphone. Come on.
Okay.
Get professional here.
Marcus Allen, thank you for being on Bisexual Coffee. It's only $7. Don't let it break the bank.
And peace out. And word to your mother.
Word to your mother.